Welcome back to G-Brands. I'm Andy Rowe, and as usual, I'm joined by All Blacks legend Justin Marshall, Brumbies finisher Jeremy Poole, and Lions and World Cup conqueror Auckland AFC boss Ellie Williams.
Crusaders legend.
Crusaders legend. Yeah,
Are you the Auckland AFC boss?
No, definitely not the boss.
I'm
a valid contributor of minor things important, like rowdiness of crowd, fan engagement, and just the good things involved with sport.
I feel like that suits you from the character that we know, but I guess we're going to find out more about that as the podcast goes on. But like, what is your role actually at Auckland FC? Because you guys have had a hell of a season.
I actually don't have a role. I'm +1 to one of the most amazing women in the world, and with that +1 role comes the sort of joint involvement with AFC, and I just help where I can, fixing all sorts of gaps, from phoning old contacts to help us out, to chucking out silly ideas like 25-metre slides at a game of football, and just trying to make things work, really. Talking to security guards to see if we can make it a little bit easier. But yeah, no, just generally everything. I mean, I've got a passion about not so much the product on the field. I think that's where we leave it to the guys when it's their time and their moment, which you know we all had here around rugby. But for me, it's about how can we bring in the community? How can we make sports fun? How can we make entertainment of sport? And that's sort of really where my focus is with AFC. So
where did the idea of creating another football club in this country come from? Like, was it you and Anna just having a few drinks and going, you know what, I think it'd be a cool idea to
It's pretty close to that, Marty. Yeah, it is pretty close to that. It was
like,
actually in the shower. And she said to me, it's true, it's dead set true. And she said to me, why is there only one professional football team in this country? And I said, there was one here in Auckland, but didn't really work. And then they went down to Wellington, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, this is ridiculous. And I said, well, it is what it is. And she's like, well, what league would they play in? And I said, they play in the A League, blah, blah, blah. If they would, within about, I'd say 2 days.
You grabbing the soap? Or?
No.
Oh, right. This is further on.
This
It's moved out of the shower.
This is post-wash. So I was clean when we were talking about this. So there was no soap around.
Oh, right.
And anyway, she just got straight onto it, looked at A-League, got some expansion documents, and we went all down that path of what it is and how it could work, and looked at another partner. And through my time in Paris, got to know a few people, mostly good people, the odd bad one, I'm sure you guys might touch on. And then there was the group at PSG, and so we went together in a joint bid for an expansion team.
You were talking to PSG?
Shit, I didn't realise you were involved with them. Okay.
With NASA there at PSG, and we always had this bigger vision that how do you create an All Black footballer in terms of their mindset and what they do and all that sort of, with a bit of Australian goodness, right?
Yes.
How do you create that? And that's where that sort of opportunity of implementing the mental side onto the game, and that's really where it came from. Got to a position where we're sort of like, this is getting a bit too hard from their side, and blah blah blah. Anyway, Bill came in, Foley came in, jumped in.
Bill Foley so he did some stuff with, was it ice hockey? Mm-hmm. Just a bit of background about him.
Background on
Bill
Foley. Bill Foley, he's military, went into the finance world, did extremely well. I think it's probably 8 years, maybe 9 years ago now, he bought the license fee for an ice hockey team in Las Vegas. Everyone said, mate, you don't take ice to the desert, you moron. Really gave him a bit of grief. He paid $500 million for it. Within 6 years, he won the Stanley Cup, and it's called the Golden Knights. And you go to Vegas now, and it's just one of the biggest shows. About 80% of their crowd is based on people that live in Vegas, so not just people that come in. And for him, it was all about entertainment and winning. And so we eventually partnered up. Through the process, we partnered up. We met him. We actually met him online within about 2 or 3 minutes. Him and Anna were like, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, this could be fun. And then that was it. And the rest is sort of history, where we keep on pushing each other and challenging.
Were you scared of the talent spread? Like, so I look at Australia, right? Like the diversity of sports we have there. Arguably, I think one of the hardest like environments to be able to be successful in sport. Like you look at the Wallabies, we're probably getting 15th to 20th most talented kid because of rugby league, AFL, soccer. So here in New Zealand, smaller population,
but I still think we have.
Did you think you had enough numbers?
Well, so the interesting stats is that there is 18,000 registered rugby players in Auckland. There's just over 65,000 registered footballers in Auckland.
Okay.
So the numbers from a grassroots level all the way up works, but there was no professional pathway.
Yeah.
So that's where the opportunity to be bigger than just a club and more a
no-brainer
thing was where it sort of made sense, right? And then how you do it is the integral part. But for us, the desire to make a pathway for these young kids. So my story, played football all the way till I was 16.
Hang on.
And then,
What? Like as in
soccer.
The round ball?
Yeah. Played that all the way
Until
till I
you
was
hang
16.
on, wait, no,
16.
16.
Yeah, 16.
position. What were you?
It's 100% true.
Well, he has to be a goalie, for God's sake.
I ended up in the goal. I ended up in the goal, but I started.
It's like, fuck me, where do we put Ali? Okay, we'll put him in the goal.
No. I started as a young buck. I started up front, and I was, a trailblazer and a glory hunter. And then, obviously, as you grow up and you look more like a baby giraffe running around than a prime athlete, you end up further and further back into the position of goalie.
I did not know that about you, man.
Ended up in goalie, and then basically I went to rugby because at school women only watched rugby.
Yes.
And at the age of 16, you all of a sudden get a second brain between your legs, and I was like, well, it's time to jump the ditch, and I started playing rugby, and the rest is history. But now I'm back at football, but I still love rugby, and I love what it gave me, the opportunity, the people we meet.
Of course.
And, it is a brilliant game.
While we're talking about women, you've mentioned Anna a few times already in the podcast, and a lot of our listeners, especially in the UK, won't know who Anna is.
Yep.
There's only one other
Do you guys
person.
go just outside of this little box?
Oh,
I thought
we're
you only
global.
talk to yourself.
We're global.
Oh, global.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I've heard a lot of these podcasts that are global.
Well, we are
But
global.
you're just in a little box. Yeah, okay, go on.
So our little sister podcast, GBR, has got Alex Payne, Haskell, and Mike Tyndall. And
I see where all the morons are coming into one great place. I get it now. I get it now.
I would argue.
I reckon this could be fun. This could be fun. Can you invite me as a guest? I'd love to be there. Good bunch of lads in the group.
I would argue that you and Mike Tyndall could be the two best marriers after rugby in world rugby.
Wouldn't disagree with that. Mike's done extremely well. Sarah's a beautiful lady with a lot of energy, and Anna's exactly the same. Beautiful
Tell us
lady
about her.
with a lot of energy. What's the best way to describe her? She's got more energy than me, but she's got a brain on her. And I think she's got so much excitement for life and zest for life, as you get drawn to that excitement, and then I suppose you look at what she's achieved in life around business, and she's a mother of 5, and it's the way she parents is astronomical considering the amount of work she does and all those sorts of things. So, I mean, really hard, but how do you speak so highly about someone that you're married to and things like that? I find her sort of aspirational as well as being in love with her. So it's pretty special, and she's a special woman, and she's continuing to do some pretty crazy things.
She's a top. Anna's such a.
She's one of us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She just gets into it, has a bit of fun like this. She's one of the lads.
If you came across her, and she's been incredibly successful, they both have, but you wouldn't realise that about her, because she's just like one of the people that fits into the situation, So it's amazing what you guys have done, and what is it like to do that, out of a conversation in the shower. I'm still smiling about that. To create a football team, and like, holy moly, like beyond your wildest expectations, how well it's doing. I know you. I know what you're like, Harley. You're a competitor, and you want everything about winning for you. But like, for it to be so successful in this first opportunity, man.
Yeah, it's look. I think come back to the point that it's their time on the field. The guys who are on the field now, it's their time, and that's the cool part. And I sort of let them do their thing. There's not a lot I can offer them in terms of football guidance. But what I really like and really, really proud of is one, how Aucklanders have got behind the team because Auckland supporters, it can be quite
Fickle.
fickle, but also like reserved. And for the first time and probably ever for me, I've heard people chanting Auckland, go Auckland. I experienced it down in Christchurch and loved it, and they're passionate as hell, and they'll do anything to support their team, but not so much up here. And you can see that with this football team there. They are getting behind Aucklanders, and I think the thing that we've really walked towards is that Auckland is a place of so many different cultures, and that's what this whole football team is about. It's about so many different variables in terms of Colombians, Uruguayans, Mexicans, Kiwi kid, Māori kid, Samoan, whatever it is. We've got so many different cultures in there, and that's how we're all sort of bringing it all together. So all the fans and all the people are really, really engaged and showing their true colours, which is, to me, the really exciting bit. The byproduct, e.g. the results on the field, that's sort of something I can't control, but it's the people that I see getting.
Go back to the A-League, right? How it all came about, Frank Lowry, right? My God, here is this billionaire in Australia that wanted a national competition in Australia, right? So he invested in huge amounts of money, huge amounts of time, and he created this. But I think what you've also done is sort of shown New Zealand that they could have another team as well. Look at the New Zealand Warriors as well, in rugby league. Mate, never thought there could be two A-League teams in the soccer. Now, that also shows up potentially the opportunity for another rugby league side as well.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think one of the learnings I suppose I've got is that New Zealand and Australia are a force to be reckoned with when they work together.
Yes.
I think sometimes in rugby we potentially fight each other.
Anzac test?
And that's not on the field, not on the field, but off the field. I think we potentially slug it out for who's this or who's that or who's commercially more viable or numbers like that. When the reality is if we truly combine, then we are more powerful to the world around rugby. And that's probably the thing I've really learnt around this is let's acknowledge all the strengths that Aussie's got. Let's acknowledge the strengths that New Zealand's got, and let's work together to make a better product, because at the end of the day, we're all competing against different sports. We're not competing against sort of different teams and countries.
With that, what would you like to see in rugby? How do you think New Zealand and Australia could work together? What are the things that you think are low-hanging fruit?
I think, how does it look from a governance to drive the game as a whole, not just drive your team? So if I look at it and I go, well, how does Super Rugby get bigger and get more coverage and get more eyeballs through Australia, because that's the commercial dollar is more in Australia, potentially the disbursement of talent, how they do it with the NRL. Now you look at the NRL as a competition, it is unbelievably successful. They are now starting to buy other tournaments around the world. Their cash reserves and their cash is unbelievable. They get, just to put in perspective, the NRL gets 360 million, now don't quote me exactly, 360 million for their broadcast revenue. The A-League gets 21 million. The difference is massive. The numbers
57 million. We just signed our new TV deal for Rugby Union with Stan, with Channel 9.
There you go.
57 million.
So there you go. So
360 million difference. AFL up around 600 million.
600 mil. Yeah, so AFL's the biggest one by far.
Big numbers.
600
massive numbers. But then you look at what does that money do, right? That comes down to a distribution down to the clubs. Then the clubs are getting more money. Guess what the clubs do with more money?
The women's game as well.
They start to expand it. And not in expanding it just in talent. What they also do is they look at their fans and their community engagement. And I think that's the real area that here we can look at is how do we tie in to our community. So for instance, this weekend we're playing away, right? Well, normally you shut up shop and you don't do anything. Well, no, we're going down to Britomart, which is the town centre. We're going to put on a big screen. We're going to make it easy to come and have a beer. We're going to promote everyone to wear their jerseys and all that sort of stuff. Let's get us together at 9 o'clock at night and support our team, which is Auckland FC. And that's that community bit, right? Gives people something they're anchored to.
It's quite obvious though, eh?
No, it's
great.
And the beauty we've got is that, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 owners. We get together on a text and we say, should we do this? Yep. Brilliant. That's us.
Oh.
And we've got a CEO and Nick Becker who chucks ideas and yes, yeah. And we're like, go for it, the thing is, and this is what I learned off Anna, when you're leading something, the worst thing you can do is not make a decision or not make a choice. And the reality is, let's give something a crack and fail fast. Then you can start again the next week. And that's the thing that we're doing. Like, we're chucking heaps at the wall, and if it works, great, we'll expand it. If it doesn't work, let's park it and try again.
Yeah,
If it sticks, buddy, it sticks. So, yeah.
Let's get on to rugby then.
Rugby, here we
Enough
go,
of
here we
this
go.
football
Yeah,
chat.
yeah. Enough
G
of that
brands, good
bullshit.
foosball.
Mate, let's get into the
Let's get
nitty
into
gritty.
So you switched to rugby to lose your virginity, and you went into you made it quickly into the.
It actually worked, though. It's incredible. It's actually
Hang on, let's think
incredible.
about it. Didn't you say at 16?
No, not at 6. It took me a few years. I wouldn't say I was an instant winner, but no, it took me a few years.
So you cracked it with the Blues quite quickly, considering you'd switched over at 16. What was it like coming into the Blues?
We over here we're Auckland first, so provincial competition. That's when go up against Marshy for the first time, and I think for me, I was just running on adrenaline and sort of that belief that I can do it. What was I? I was 19.
19.
Yeah, and you sort of just. You're into it, right? Like, I was 95 kgs in my first test match.
90?
Yeah.
What?
I was tiny, but
I think it might have been heavier than you. There's a possibility.
I tell you what, you fucking spoke like 110 kilo.
No, you went on my first tour.
No.
You were getting rested.
I was getting rested.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
I ended up playing against you guys at Twickenham.
Yeah, that's right.
As Barbarians captain.
That's
I
right.
played against Jimmy that day. What an experience that was. Can you imagine that?
Oh, you two morons. Oh.
Okay, we'll come back to you getting into the Blues, but just while we're talking about your experience playing against Marshy, what were your initial thoughts of Marshy? And Marshy
look,
likewise.
to be honest,
Open forum here.
Be honest.
yeah, 100%.
Be honest.
A lot of people didn't really like him purely because of his haircut and his colour. And, I have to honestly say this is not a love moment, but I was like, mate, fuck, I'm all for it, mate. I reckon it's cool. I put tints on my hair the whole life. I had pink hair, I had everything. I was like, hey, this guy's a champion. And then he wore those tight things that made his legs look bigger and faster. I wore tights as well, so I was like, man, I'm a Marshy fan right from the start. And he didn't mind giving the refs a bit of grief. So for me, I was actually a big fan of Marshy's. I didn't tell many people in Auckland, but I was a big fan. And then to play against him, I think what comes out more than anything is his competitive nature. And on that field, it's everything to win. And I think that's what he passed on to a lot of younger guys, is you do everything to win. Then off the field, you are yourself, and there's a lot of things that I think the modern sports person doesn't have, which is that ability to have a view or to have a position that they see, whether they whether other people like it or don't like it. That's the world, right? You can just disagree and commit. You can all have an opinion, and we go from there. And the worst thing is not to have an opinion, right, and sit on the fence in my eyes. So for a lot of us looking up at Marshy, it was, well, at least he had an opinion, right? And it was. I enjoyed playing against you, and we became teammates and understood how it all worked in the brain, and we had a lot of fun. We had a few altercations too. Don't get me wrong. Like,
That's what I want to hear about.
Yeah, he pissed me off sometimes, and I pissed him off sometimes.
No,
and that was life.
we get on so well, but you wouldn't ever think about it, when you see the altercations we had on the field. But when two competitive natures meet each other, no one's going to yield. And that's just the way it is, we never ever had any issues off the field, but when we're on the field,
there was one time.
Okay.
Here we go.
Now we're talking.
Was it what's that bar you used to own?
I used to own the Grumpy Mole.
The Grumpy Mole, and I think I was.
The bar,
and I think I was being a bit of a larrikin, and I was like, come on, mate, give me another drink. And he got a bit grumpy because I was like, just give us another one. You're like, shut up, man, let us have it. It was a bit so fuck, we're just trying to have a. That was the only altercation. So it was due course. Like, it was on.
No, well, yeah. Look, I probably was just
Don't
thinking
remember
about
it?
like profit and loss.
P&L, I get you.
You know what I mean? You know what that's like.
100% get you. 100% get you. I get it.
You got to think about the business.
It's still an altercation, right?
What he failed to mention, it was 5:30 in the morning. Just another one for the 8 of us that are still here. It's like, no.
But you're also talking about someone you played with, like someone that played against you. We used to love playing against you because you you fucking chirped. Like, you constant, like, chat. Like, just this. And every time we played you, we just wanted to bash you.
Yeah, it's good, eh?
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. It's
so good because, mate, you were like one of the only guys that ever actually spoke back. Like, do you notice? No, but do you notice that though? Like, I don't think the current player says a word. But back in the day when we used to like have a genuine crack, right? Like there was only a couple of guys that would actually speak.
Yeah, I think that was that All Black way, right? Like, be real humble, just sort of thing. And I mean, trying to get it out of him and trying to get it out of me was hard, and not even the mighty All Black jersey could get it out of us. So when we were playing you guys, like, to me, I love talking. I love sort of getting.
I realise that.
And you guys love talking back, right? I remember there was one thing. Remember like, David? It's David Giffen, eh?
Yeah,
the second row. And we were playing, and I didn't play the game before, and then I played this, and I think he won 8 lineouts in a row. Yeah. And he goes, "Fuck, Williams, I thought they brought you in here to strengthen this lineout." He goes, "You are shit." And I turned around and I was like, "Oh, man." And I couldn't reply fast enough in that thing. And I was like, "Oh." So in the next ruck or the next lineout I got to, and I said, "Mate, I've just worked it out." I said, "I've got what is it, 11? I got 11 other backs out there kicking your ass, mate. You can have all the line-up all you want, you idiot. We're going to win this." I think we put like 30 points on you. And I was like, "Fuck, there you go, mate. I'm just here to make you a friend. Make you look good, mate, because you're going to get dropped next week." It was so good. I was just like, yeah, actually, I got fucking good backs. Rock was killing it. Lost, mate.
Coco, what a player, man.
Isn't that the summary of a good rugby player's career, is when you can look at all the backs that have scored you tries and you've done nothing?
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
I was doing a gig with DC the other day, and they played highlights of DC over 15 years, and I think my face turned up once, and I was like, "Mate, where's the respect for all the hard work we did?" Right? And then I was like, "Okay, mate, you get it. You had the undies campaign."
Front football, mate. Front football. No team can operate off being on the back foot.
Exactly.
It's like, interesting.
That ruck?
People don't acknowledge us for that, eh? No. Anyway, it is what it is.
So we were chatting over a couple of beers earlier, and Marshy mentioned 2005, DC gets a lot of the plaudits, and you had some very kind words to say about Ali.
Yeah, like obviously, like I said, we're massive competitors, and we had our ding-dongs on the field, but that was out of us both being super competitive, and you try to rattle the opposition and do whatever, and had some confrontations, and it was either Ali or Carlos, to be fair with me, but and then you become teammates. And no, I did say, Ali, that I thought like in 2005, I thought probably you were probably the most unrecognised player on that Lions series, because I felt that, like in that first test, that you were the line-out leader. We stole so much of their ball. We knew they were coming down to scrum, line out, kick-offs. We practiced them fucking hard out, didn't we? Like all the time. Yeah. And like you, literally probably very close to player of the game, if not player of the game in that first test. You had an awesome series, and I think it's just, as a back, sometimes you kind of recognise about what the game's all about. Like sometimes the people that are doing the work for others don't get recognised, and everyone wanks on about how well DC played in that second test, which he did. Fuck me, did. You look at it, it's unbelievable.
Great try. Yeah.
But I think probably around that time you were playing some of the best rugby you've ever played, and for whatever reason, mate, you massively fronted. And why do you think? What triggered you for that?
Yeah, because like you look back in your career and you're like, mate, what was that? What were the little purple patches, right? And that was definitely one of them.
You were up for that, man.
Yeah, I didn't really play that well Super Rugby that year.
Nusa.
No, he came later.
It was 05.
It was
05, mate, because he left us in 04.
We'll come back to Nusa. Let's focus on the line.
And then for me, British and Irish Lions was pretty important from a family perspective. So I'm first generation Kiwi, and my mum's Scottish, my dad's English, my grandparents, all that, they're all from that side of the world. And my dad actually, I said to him, "Look, are you going to support the All Blacks?" He says, "Mate, no." I said, "Give it a rest, mate. Like, I'm in the team." He goes, "Mate, I'm a British and Irish Lions supporter. That's what we do." And so we basically, him and I had a little wager and said, mate, if we win, then you've got to start wearing an All Black jersey and be a fan of the All Blacks when it comes to the British and Irish Lions. He's like, mate, I'm on for it.
I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm all in. And so I think there was a little bit of extra motivation internally for me to prove my dad and sort of those sorts of things. So I think when you look at those purple patches that you have during your career, there is an emotional or a mental state of mind that you put yourself in.
Yeah.
And I don't think you know you're putting yourself in it at that time, especially because we're so young, right? But then looking back at it, you're like, yeah, okay, maybe that's what it was. It meant more to me, all that sort of stuff.
Actually, that's really
But when you think about who you were against, like that was that English forward pack that had done a number
Martin
on us
Johnson,
in
man, Danny Grucock, was it
Danny
Danny
Grucock, Ben Kay.
God, he could play.
We had all those boys.
And you're still reasonably young.
Yeah.
But our foundation for that Test series, and people say, like I say, we were a very attacking orientated team, but up front, man.
Yeah, we were dominant. I think. I think all of us just clicked, right? It was just one of those games or one of those series that I think. Look at Graham Henry and the hype that he put behind it, the importance he put behind it. It didn't just sort of catch us and just be like, oh, it's a Lions game. For us, it was probably the one time that we looked and we're like, mate, this is not another game, mate. This is not another series. This is the Lions, right? It comes around every 12 years. Hook into it. So emotionally I was up for it, and I appreciate it when you hear those. It's taken them 18 years to say it, but I appreciate the hard work that we do.
No, but I actually have said it before.
But I love how you retrospectively just go. Those purple patches that you look back at your career, right? Like obviously Marshy, how many purple patches did he have?
He was good on it off the field.
He won a lot, right?
Didn't he?
So you actually look back at that, right? And you go, because leading into that, like the Blues didn't have a great season that year. No. And then you've come out for the All Blacks and you just were like, wow. You created this brand new Ali Williams, like this whole mental side of things, but looking back from the personal side of things.
Yeah.
But then 206.
206, yeah, great year. We had that new coach, didn't we? That Aussie guy didn't really get on, didn't really see eye to eye. I think with anyone, they've got their ways. I suppose I was high in terms of who I was, coming off a pretty decent season. We went an
awesome season.
And we won the Grand Slam that year.
Yeah, you did.
Europe
as well. Man. You guys were like number one by a long way too, right?
And then so when you get a new coach comes in and it's sort of challenging who you are and what you want to do and all that sort of stuff, I think that's when the maturity of a man comes forward, and they either accept it and work a bit with it, or they're a bit stubborn and shit-headed, and that was probably me, the latter.
I'm there as well.
Yeah.
I did it too.
Yeah.
No, we did it too.
So you don't find a way to work in with what his personality is, and we just sort of conflicted the whole time, and it came to loggerheads in 2007 when we had a conditioning break for the World Cup that year.
This is
Nusafora, yeah. And then basically we got to a position where I was standing up for what the All Blacks had said that we should do, the group of us that arrested, and then he believed we should still be part of Super Rugby. So there's a conflict there, and you back the coaches that back you. And for me, it was when Ted and Shag and Smithy said, like, this is what we're going to do, this is what we'll buy into, and then when someone says no, you represent the person that you've got the most affiliation with and the person that's really looked after you. So that I was pretty strong on that point, and it got to a point where I left the Blues and he stayed on. I went down and helped the Crusaders. I didn't help them. I probably just won a championship for the Crusaders in 2008 because they hadn't won anything. And so I came down and
struggling away down there. We were
shucked them on my shoulder. They gave me one guy to contribute and to help because he came back. One guy called Brad Thorne, and a little creature. Little creature, didn't do much in his career.
What a player!
What a human legend! But
the gym.
Oh, in the gym he was pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Mate, we've spoken about Brad Thorne a lot.
I remember when I came down and Thorne just looks at me and goes, you catch the balls in the air, I have the ones on the ground, I clean rucks, you jump in line outs. I said, mate, that sounds like a dream. He's like, let's do this, buddy, let's do this. He used to get so like fixated with shit, he would run round 3 people just to clean a ruck, and you're like, mate, we've got a defensive line here. He's just an absolute champion. And then I reckon the most rewarding moments with Thorny was when you'd sit there after a game and he'd be like, oh, and Brig Brad didn't drink.
Didn't say much.
No, didn't say much, but didn't drink. But every now and then at the end of the season, he might walk up to you with a Guinness and he'd be like, I think we deserve a Guinness this season. And we'd have 1 Guinness and I'd be like, yes, I made it this year. I've made it this year. I've got a tick from
To have that 1 Guinness with Bad Thorn.
100%. Oh,
Wow.
but shit, he would demoralise you too because he'd walk past you in the gym and he'd be like,
He'd just start laughing.
What's that?
What is
I'd be
that?
like, what do you mean I'm squatting? He goes, that's not a squat, man. You've got like 100 kgs on. You can't even get halfway down. You're a disgrace. You're a disgrace. You're like, oh,
I'm so
mate.
fucking glad to hear that he didn't just pick on backs, that he picked on the odd forward as well.
Oh, big, tall,
He
white
used to
guys.
start
used to
laughing
get
when he
into
walked
it.
past me on the bench press and stuff. You know? You actually, but he'd been there 2 hours before anyone else,
Yeah, exactly.
prancing around in singlet,
Yeah.
like looking at everybody doing their
Mate,
thing.
telling me, like, Tupu, like, said,
yeah.
when he squatted 200 kilos for the first time, Brad Thorne walked past and said, welcome to the club.
Oh, dude, welcome to the club.
Like, whoa.
Oh, Thorny.
But your 2008 season, right, like, going down there, like, Auckland was everything to you. Like, being a
Yep,
one-club
yep.
player,
No, you're right, you're
potentially,
right, you're
like, massive decision.
We had, like, I was pretty clear I was an Aucklander. I think
Yeah.
people still know that I was an Aucklander. And I was actually having the conversation with Richie last night, actually. We spoke to each other, and I still remember asking him, I said, what do I do? And he goes, well, put on a coin, tell me on a coin, heads come to the Crusaders, Wellington, or go to Wellington, or go to the Chiefs, blah, blah, blah. He flicked it. He goes, flick the coin, flick it. He goes, don't look at it. I said, okay, I won't. He goes, what do you want it to be? And I was like, I don't know, maybe heads. And he goes, well, that was Crusaders, wasn't it? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, well, come on down to the Crusaders. So that was it. I didn't even like...
That was it?
Yeah, and that was the decision process that
No
he said.
way!
He said, because, and he's smart, but,
Yeah.
if your gut says something,
Yeah.
go with it. But sometimes we don't let that happen. And, it takes great people... to go down to the Crusaders and do pretty well. It does not just every man goes down to the
no one
Crusaders.
goes down.
Everyone thinks the Crusaders make the man, but it's actually the man that comes down to make the Crusaders. I say that in tongue in cheek, knowing.
I just have to quickly add this very quickly. When I left the Ospreys, I had a coin toss as well
Oh yeah, there you go.
because I was leaving contract early and we couldn't agree terms. So I went and sat down with the owner at his place. We drank 2 bottles of red wine, and we still couldn't come to terms.
Yeah.
And I said, look, if you don't pay me this money, blah, blah, blah. And then again, he said, no, I'm not paying it. And then in the finish, he said, we'll toss a coin.
Yeah, good.
And as All Black captain, I'd lost every coin toss.
Did you?
Yeah, and went heads every time. So this is for €25,000.
Yeah, it's good money.
Oh, well, that's
And
good,
so he
man.
said, right, the
Offshore?
only way we're going to settle
New
this is, he
Jersey?
said, I'll do it. Yeah, 1-on-1 coin toss. And up the fucking coin went. And I was watching it twirl around. I was 4 bottles of Bordeaux deep. And the thing spinning around, I'm thinking. And I went, heads. Like that. Thing bounced around on the ground and boom, landed heads.
Heads,
And I
you're
was
right.
like, boom. So yeah, I can understand
Oh,
what that
coin
would
toss
have
is
been like.
valuable,
'Cause it's a major decision in your life,
I was captain of the Blues with Hoary, Andrew Hoare.
Yeah.
And we come together and we had this thing, and we said to each other, right, let's do a challenge through the game we play against the Highland. He goes, yeah, okay, what's it going to be? I said, let's put $100 in each other's sock, and during the game, if you can get the $100 out of your sock, you get to keep it. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's a good challenge.
Who are you playing, sorry?
The Highlanders. The Highlanders.
yeah.
And me and Hoary were captain. And I was like, okay, great. And then so we went down to Dunedin and we were going to play them. And so at the coin toss, the ref goes, what do you want? And I said, look, heads. Hoary, well, I obviously had the other one. And the ref flicks it up. And then you just see this mitt catches it. He goes, no. We'll kick off. We'll go that way. I was like, man, it's meant to land on the ground. And the ref, I can't remember the ref at the time, he goes, what do I do? I said, no. We go that way. He goes that way. We just walk like the ref was like, oh shit! But it was on TV.
Yeah.
So the next week we got the TAB hounding us, saying you can't do that. That's
You're
illegal.
manipulating
That's a
the
manipulated
situation.
system. We're like, mate, we're just having fun. Like who cares?
Stop it.
Anyway, at the end of the game, having my interview, and I'm just like, yeah. And I hadn't managed to get the money out of his sock. And he walks up, you know what he's like? He walks up, grabs the money out of my sock. Thank you very much. And then walks off. And I was like, fuck.
Oh my days.
Captain Hurricane.
Yeah.
We used to call him Captain Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Because of his massive jaw.
Well, we've talked about you going to the Crusaders, glory
Yeah.
hunting. It's only right that we get on your old mate that's doing
My
the
travel
same
buddy.
at the moment.
Yeah,
Your
travel buddy.
Let's talk Toulon.
Here he is.
Talk the
How are you,
Galacticos.
pal? Look at you.
How are we? How are you, big boy?
James O'Conor, the finisher, on the show. Thanks very much for joining us, mate.
I've got to come on for this one with the big man himself.
Mate, any chance you could turn the volume up? I really value what you say. How are you, buddy? You look still alive, fighting fit. You don't look as cold as I saw you last time. It was Paris, 19.
Where was that exactly?
Oh, mate, it was a cold night. Anyway, we all live
Set
and,
the scene.
we all live and learn, horse. We all live and learn.
Most jail cells are.
Ironically, you can see who's the smarter one, right? Like, I finished that day. He's gone, what are we, 8 years later? He's still going, and he's
still
playing
going.
some of his best footy. Mate, well done, buddy. So good to see.
Oh, I appreciate it, bro.
And you had to get to the Crusaders to win something.
You're not wrong.
Right.
You're not wrong. You say it all the time.
So good.
Hey,
I was
you
going to
guys
say we
played.
had a couple other cold nights on the back of that Vespa of yours.
Yeah, that's all right.
Traveling around Toulon.
Someone had to drive us home,
There's
mate.
a story
Oh
there.
yeah, no. We used to go and have a few quiets, and then getting home, we used to have a little. We had our little scooters, you know. Everyone has scooters in France.
yeah.
And Jimmy, he just used to cuddle me old rabs on the way home. We were like, yeah, we're all right. We got this, buddy. We got this. No, you look back, and man, it was some pretty special time. Like
Yeah,
Toulon is one of
absolutely.
those unique places that brings us all together.
Yeah.
And you know, you haven't played with each other or you've known about them, but it's just been friendly banter, blah. But you're getting to know people from Monday through to Saturday, and then you're going to war with them. I enjoyed the time so much, you know, and the mates I've got, you know, with you and Self, Rabbit, it's pretty impressive, right? And you know, to start to learn and love Australians, it's pretty cool, man.
But to play with rock stars too, though, like at Toulon, right? Like, because Toulon was like all about bringing international players.
Yeah,
They
we
were
had-
like rock stars. Like, we're not talking like just your average players. So,
No.
how did you guys all gel? Like, how did you like all come together? Because you had some of the greatest players.
That Toulon team that was called the Galacticos, right? Like, James, you must remember, like, some of those players that you guys got to play with. One of the best teams that's ever been put together on paper, arguably.
Oh, 100%. There was pretty much 3 international teams. There's guys that were playing international footy that couldn't even get onto the training paddock. I remember how frustrating it was for me. I just couldn't get a bloody starting spot. I was working so hard, and Ali let me know it every week. I'd be going to like an away game, jumping on the bus, and be like, "See you, kid." But it was awesome, man. Like, awesome players, incredible, and just some of the trips we had. Remember how Morad would dangle the carrot?
Oh,
Win
yeah.
3 games in a row, have the week off.
Yeah. Or he'd say to us, this is the owner. He would say, if you guys win, I'll fly you home. And we're like, well, that's sort of standard, right? It's 8 hours drive. Like, hello. You know how precious we are. And then we'd lose, and then all of a sudden this bus would turn up. And we're going to get an 8-hour bus ride. And then so he would be like, yeah, there, I taught them. Well, put guys on a bus for 8 hours with a few beers. Mate, training was so bad until about Thursday. It was horrific. He slowly learnt out of it. I remember, because Bernard Laporte was our coach, right?
Yes.
And he was the French coach when we lost in the quarterfinals in 2007, and he was just shocked by the way that we would it was almost like communicate with each other by grunting and rah, 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 and just that camaraderie and that companionship. And then he couldn't understand how the foreigners, like Aussies and South Africans, how we got on so well. We all sort of connected too in the style that we played, and he didn't have a clue what he was trying to coach us. We literally got to a point where he goes, you know what, you guys just win, and I won't coach you, I won't do anything. Like, we'd do 8 scrums in a week and be like, no, just make sure you win in the weekend. We're like, this is awesome. And there were so many old boys, right? But no, we had a lot of fun, right? We had a lot of fun, and we got to know each other really well.
Oh, 100%. Even we didn't do contact one time, and I think the whole 3 years I was there, I didn't do contact once. I think the fourth maybe twice. There was one game they didn't front up, then they had to do contact. But, yeah, it was crazy, man.
Rebs, did you
learn a lot though? Learn a lot.
We did learn a lot, eh?
Did you guys have Johnny Wilkinson in that team?
Yeah.
Well, that's why he couldn't get a start. No, anyway, mate, honestly,
we had Freddie.
We have Freddie Michalak.
I got signed.
Freddie Michalak, Johnny Wilkinson, Gitz, Rabs. We couldn't have got a better first five. The only person that thought he should have been a first five and wasn't was Brian Habana, but he was all right on the wing, right?
You had Brian Habana.
We had Dylan Armitage, we had Stefan Armitage, we had literally Andrew Sheridan. We had flipping every Bakkies, Botha, me, Carl Heyman, Chris Marsoe.
God, he was dirty as fuck.
Bakkies had got big.
Bakkies was so dirty.
He got big by then, though, eh? Like
not as big as he is now. I mean, he looks like his prize buffalo,
Bakkies.
right? Yeah, Bucker.
Mate, do you remember playing against him in Test match rugby?
Mate,
I remember, he kicked me in the back of the head in one game, and he then
Standard.
He then jumped on top of me and whispered in my ear, 1-0, Paul. And then he'd run off. Yeah. 1-0, Paul. I was like, when the fuck did we start having a competition about bashing each other? When did that start?
Yeah, when did that start?
It's like a personal contest with him.
Remember,
how dirty he
was.
Be.
Yeah. Do you remember when he, in his final year, Rabs, him and I would start, and then he would look at me during the game. It was about 43 minutes, so he'd always do the first half, and then about 43 to 50 minutes, he'd look at me. He'd walk up to me, so it'd be a scrum. He'd walk up, slowly walk up to me, shake my hand. Thanks, mate. And then just walk off. I was like, mate, you haven't been subbed, mate. And he goes, nah, Bucky's done, mate. Bucky's is done. Because Bucker's done. Because he talked in the third person. Yeah. So when he got angry, he talked in the third person. He's like, nah, Bucker's gone. Bucker's gone. And there was one time, we're at a judicial hearing together, right? And then we passed each other, and I was like, mate, we can't be doing this stuff. He goes, Bucky didn't do it. I said, mate, you're here on a judicial hearing, mate. You did. He goes, not Bucker. You did something. Yeah, not Bucker. Not me. Not Bucker. I was like, oh, mate, if only I could convince myself that I didn't do shit, that would be amazing.
Rebs, what were your memories of Ali on the field?
Oh, he was a good player, honestly. He won us a couple games, to be fair. I went over there pretty fresh faced. I sort of knew, you spin the ball in the back, so it just went us a line out. But I started to learn the game a little bit more because I had to, upskill myself. But yeah, he can pass the ball. He didn't love contact, but when you put him into a big game, he was a different beast. You put him in a final, and he's pulling apart mauls and whacking people. Club game, he's shifting around for someone else to carry. Maybe give him a Brian Smith or whatever.
Well summed up, Chief. Well summed up.
What about?
I see everything.
What about off the field, Rabs? Obviously, the key thing I learned about Ali was obviously incredibly talented. Like you say, he could pick his moments, and his moments he obviously picked really well. So reasonably intelligent within the game, but you could always rely on him to socially be up for a beer, couldn't you? He was never kind of shirking it.
I knew we were going to be mates. The first time we had a few drinks down by the beach together. I think my missus fell off his shoulders. 5 minutes later, him and Drew getting a little scuffle. 5 minutes later, you're back at my place. And that was our first little drink together. We got along well.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sailey. If you've ever been stuck abroad trying to watch the rugby but can't manage to get a stable Wi-Fi connection, thankfully, Sailey has got you covered. Created by the people at NordVPN, Sailey is a travel app that offers eSIMs to allow you to purchase affordable data plans in over 200 destinations around the world. You'll also have access to a secure internet connection throughout your travels. As a podcast, we travel between Australia, New Zealand and the UK a lot, so Sailey's perfect for avoiding those roaming charges. You literally just need to download the app for free, pick a country you're in, and purchase yourself some data. It's that easy, honestly. Sailey's data plans can be up to 10 times cheaper as well than your roaming fees. Use the code GBRANDS at the checkout to get 15% off our first purchase. And we've also added the details into the podcast episode description box below. So go and have a look. Click on the link.
See you, buddy.
Good to see you.
You too, pal.
See you guys.
Have you been watching any of the footy this year and watching Rabs?
I
watched any of the rugby?
one game, I think, and he was playing, and it was quite impressive, eh? Like, I was like...
Yeah, I was like...
Yeah, you shouldn't be playing that well, right? With structure and stuff like that.
No, but watching an Australian player, because we've spoken a lot about this. We actually asked Richie Mwanga in one of our first podcasts about players going to other Super Rugby sides, like in terms of ex-All Blacks, or rather than this Japan sabbatical / Europe. And then we see James O'Conor arguably going to one of the hardest environments, like Crusaders.
With some pressure on him too, right? Like last year the boys didn't play that well.
But it's kind of like what you did, to be fair. You know, you go Blues Crusaders. Like, what's Rabs thinking? He goes, if I want to be in the mix for the Lions, possibly staying in the Reds is quite a good idea. And now currently, Les Kiss is going to be the next Aussie coach. But he's gone... And it probably was what you were going for. Yeah, I know you had the shits with Nusafora.
Yeah.
But it was a flip of the coin. But ultimately, you knew it wasn't going to be, either way, it was going to be a bad decision for you, was it, rugby-wise?
I think there's a learning in it, if you know what I mean. Like, I think it's such a special environment, and I can't comment about it now, but in my time when I was down there, you know the simplicity. In terms of, you know what you have to do, and the reality is that you're just doing your job, and all of a sudden things just start evolving. So as a bet, or as an element to go down there, you go, well, if I just want to play rugby and not worry about the other rubbish, it's a perfect option. And I think that's where James is, down there and coming from, is he's got a clear head. He's playing what he sees. He's conforming to a structure that he likes, and it's a place that lets you do that, right? Yeah. And with respect to the Crusaders and to the people of Christchurch, they're so parochial, and they are Christchurch people. But man, when you go down there, it's bizarre. They accept you, eh?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I remember coming down and doing one of the first autograph sessions. And people are just shocked. They're like, mate, the people love you here. And I was like, this is really bizarre, because I'm passionate Aucklander, blah, blah, blah. And they just embrace it. And they're like, this is your time. Yep. We want you, and you're playing for our team. So do it bloody well. So it is a special environment down there. It is a special, and it's proved it time and time again with, Kribby, myself, now James, over those years.
The history is amazing, and their players and their ability to come down and perform and be better rugby players, and it doesn't necessarily make them All Blacks. You already won, but it just at times it can be refreshing as well. But like, honestly, you think about that, and then mate, you've had the success with the Lions. You've done that, and then roll into 2007.
It was actually interesting. I had DC come out the other day and speak to the football boys, and we talked about how we got to where the All Blacks got to. Everyone talks about it now. But what you had to go through first, and that 07 was fucking brutal, only because of the reasons that I suppose we were so naive in the fact that your head has so much power and what it can do. And 07, we thought, we're just playing, we just want to beat people. This is what it's about, blah, blah, blah. You didn't even understand there was referees in the game or points or anything like that. And the work you had to do mentally from that point was like, we've got one or two ways, right? We become a team that goes like this. We have good seasons, bad seasons, blah, blah. Or we work on our mental side and just slowly grow and grow and grow. Yes, we're going to lose the odd game, but how do you get better as people, which then in substitute becomes better as a team? So 07 was huge for the All Blacks and the legacy of it and what it's created. I mean, you guys were doing it probably that 98 through to sort of 2003, 05, you know what I mean? You guys had that mental strength and that tenacity to beat teams in times of where, probably we at our start of our careers didn't have that. Like, Marshy talked about it before about loving to wind people up. Well, the reality with Marshy and I is people probably, and you guys obviously, they knew they could wind us up. Like I went straight to the redhead, straight to getting angry, trying to fight, that sort of stuff. And he's gone, 4 more years,
right? Like,
straight to that. And I think when we accepted that we couldn't deal with those situations as a team and as people,
that's so interesting.
That's when we were like, right, we've got to change, man. And Wayne Smith was was fundamental, and he was huge behind that, along
That's
with
so
Shag.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like they could niggle you to the point where like you guys were like, and you couldn't change.
No, we couldn't change. We could get off subject. We could get off topic. We could just be completely different players. When I think that's when the strength of that mental side.
What was that like, Alif? I know it's a tough question. I went back to back, so don't worry, you're in fucking good company. I went 99, 2003, and you went, obviously, you're young in 2003, and then 2007, and mate, you deal with like, fuck, we're trying hard, eh? And there's no more passion in your heart than wanting to win that World Cup. But you've got to come back to New Zealand, and a quarter-final loss. Like I obviously 2 semi-finals, and that was brutal. To be fair,
so unforgettable.
I tell that story about when my bag was going around in Christchurch. When I arrived back after 99, and I was like arrived in Christchurch, which was where I lived at the time, and I was back in the country, and everyone was like, what the hell's the country going to think? You know, are they going to be supportive? They're going to be angry? Are they going to be okay? I remember my suitcase came around and someone had written loser on it.
No way!
Some fucker out in the baggage.
No way!
I was thinking, right, okay, so it's obviously going to be a little bit unpleasant for a while.
People are going to be a little bit testy.
On that, mate, it was brutal, eh?
Yeah.
Like 07, after that, they wanted Ted and Wayne Smith. They wanted all their heads, you know, you got to go and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, I think that's probably fundamentally one of the biggest decisions New Zealand Rugby made, was keeping them for another 4 years so they could actually constantly work on the same group of people. But I owe a lot to the people through my rugby career, and those three are definitely part of it, to just sort of get me Shag, Wayne Smith and Graham Henry.
Can I also ask on that? It's a deeply personal question. You don't have to answer it, but you spoke earlier about your dad briefly, but and you speak about the influence of all the coaches and everything like that. Your old man is like, he's the guy.
I mean, look, I think we all have old men that are, you know, they give you something, and you got to find that value in it. And you know, for me, my dad he had his accident when I was 16, so became a quadriplegic. And I think you get to a point where you think, what's it all about? Like, what do we do things for? And Dad, given that he had no movement in his arms or anything like that, but he still had his head, he could create the connection to why you do things. So when I started playing rugby and all those sorts of things, he's sort of sitting there saying, you know, what do you want me to tell you? Like, do you want me to tell you the fluff and that you're really good and things are going well, or do you want me to tell you the truth? And without answering it, he answered it for me. Wow. He knew, and he's like, mate, you know, the best thing that I could do for you is give you the truth. So he would literally tell me, you know, you didn't play that well, you didn't this, but then he would love me, and he would literally, I knew that he was coming from a good place. So him and I, we just had a really good connection where it moved from a father-son disciplinary type of that sort of thing to actually just true mates going through my career. And, you know, he got to experience some really, really great moments with me. One of the best ones I think he still remembers too, if we go back to that 2007, is he was in the air flying this way and we were in the air flying the other way because we had lost. So in the quarterfinal, they were flying over to Europe and we were flying back, and he was like, you owe me, pal. I'm sorry, mate, sorry, couldn't do that. But anyway, we got to 2011 and going through all those processes with him, and I lived together for a long, long time. And you know, I think those connections that those people make, and Dad was one of the special ones for me, because he just made it real for me, made it enjoyable, and he also challenged me to be better. And you know, it's little people like that you sort of reminisce after the time of who are those people that made it special. And I was very lucky. It was my dad and my mum also. But no, he's a good man. But he left us a few years ago. But you know, he's
sad to hear that, mate. Yeah, he's
in a 27 years in a wheelchair. Like, you talk about mental strength, we talk about all this sort of stuff. Like, that is mental strength. Like, unbelievable, tough. Like,
so
true mental strength.
So what does he give you going into that? It's 2011.
2011. To be honest, a man that's sitting in a wheelchair not complaining about anything, and I've got snapped my Achilles 3 times, like, you've got the least of your concerns, right? I can walk, I can do all this sort of stuff, and you know, he can get out of I can get out of bed. He couldn't get out of bed without help, you know. I can go to the toilet, he couldn't go to the toilet by himself. Like, all those sorts of things it puts life into perspective for you, right? So going into 2011, after all those injuries with me, I'm sort of saying, well, you know, I'm here. My goal was to start and play those games, but the reality is the best for the team was not in Graham Henry and Wayne Smith's and Shag's eyes. It was for me to come off the bench in the semi-final. And you think, oh, man, that annoys me. But the reality is you're about a team. I remember how it happened. So we're in the final, or on leading up to the final, and Ted rings me on a Tuesday. Mate, when you come up to my office, I said, mate, it's 8 o'clock.
Do I have to?
Do I have to? Yeah. Do I have to? It's 8 o'clock at night.
Because you know what's coming.
And he's like, yeah, come on, come up to my room. And I walk in, and he's like, you want a glass of wine? I said, fuck, is this how you're going to do it? Is that we're going to become mates and then you're going to drop me? He said, no, sit down. Anyway, we talk about all this sort of stuff, and he goes like, having wine, he goes, look, you know what? I think the best thing is that you start off the bench. I said, no fucking way it's the best thing, mate. I should be starting. He goes, I disagree. I said, well, I disagree with you, mate. So where are we going to get to?
I cannot believe this. The amount of conversations I've had like this. Yeah. Oh, this is so good.
And I was just like, this is bullshit. I deserve to start. And he goes, you know what? I think you're right. Like, I think you and Sam and Brad, all three of you could start. I said, well, fucking why aren't I starting? And he goes, I think, and I know, you're actually better off the bench than both of those two. I said, I couldn't care less if I'm better off the bench. I want to start. And he goes, no, because you're better off the bench, you'll be on the bench. I was like, this is bullshit. And I was just steaming, right? And it took me that night to sleep it off and then look at him in the eye, and then that's when the power of the jersey kicks in, right? And you go, yeah, he's right.
You know, power of the jersey.
This is not about me. This is about us. And then that's when you talk about 11 playing here at home. And it's like, mate, if you can't do everything for this team playing off the bench, then, you know, you're a wanker. So for me, that was that whole story, and it all worked out pretty well. Got, 30 minutes on, and we're in the crunks, and, So I think that's the power of what this team does, is that it finds your place when and where your time is, and we sort of evolve to do the best for the jersey, because we have this thing, it's your time, your moment in that jersey.
Yeah, but you want the jersey, and mate, the voice is powerful. I had the same conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you did, JP, but
so
I sat down.
I wasn't reserved my 35 tests in my career. Do you know how many fucking times I had this conversation with coaches?
Yeah.
So many times.
But I think,
like, fucking pick me.
Pick me, yeah, pick me, baby.
Pick me.
And I think the competitiveness, and people out there that are listening, and they go, well, you guys are not about the team. It's like, no, we're all about the team. But we're also only here because we believe we should be starting.
Correct.
For the betterment of the team.
Yeah, and you're saying,
we felt like we were better for the team. That's your whole
But I think
argument.
if you break it down, though, right, like, what drives a sports person, man or woman, what drives us? And let's be brutally honest, it's our ego, right?
Yeah.
Like, your ego drives
confidence,
greatness.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if you can control your ego, then you have a controlled greatness that you can achieve. If you can't, then there's little hiccups that get you and stuff. And what puts us in these positions is because we want to be the best we can possibly be. It's because we believe we're better than the guy next to us. It's because we think that the coach is bloody wrong and we know how to do it better, right? And the other thing is, when we're hurting, it doesn't hurt us. We just keep going. We keep going. So your ego is the one thing that sort of gets you there, and then it's controlling that ego when you come in with the coaches and stuff like that then creates the best team that you can be.
I think if I was ever a coach, I would want to be challenged. Yeah. I wouldn't want that player to come in and I go to him, mate, you're on the bench, and he goes, oh, great, coach, thanks very much, and he walks out. And I go,
thanks for that.
Well, that's why I'm on the fucking bench, mate.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? You want the guy to go, you know what? You're full of shit. I should be starting.
Yes.
And you know that guy is going to. He's going to question you. He's going to challenge you, but he's going to push you. And equally, you know that you've pissed him off, which I was always pissed off, and you would have been, and you would have been.
Man.
And you go, when they come on,
I remember
they're going to be trying to prove you wrong.
I remember my very first time I went back at a coach. It was Rob McQueen. It was 2000. And he had me in the change rooms. We were playing against France. And he brought me in and he goes, mate, you're on the bench. I said, fuck, mate. This is bullshit. I'm way better than Michael Foley. Like, mate, way better. Like, why mate, I have sat on the bench for nearly 2 years. Like, give me my opportunity.
Yeah.
And he's like saying again, no, we don't see you as a starting player. And I said, mate, this is bullshit. I could have lost my, mate, I threw all these, excuses, like all this shit. And he turns around and he goes, for the team, you're on the bench.
Yeah.
And then I just walked down and went, fuck, he got me with the team. Like, when they say the team, it gets you, doesn't it?
Deansy was the master.
Like,
It was only Deans.
Like, when it's for the team,
master. You walk in.
man, it gets you in in the fields, right? Like, where you go, fuck, I know he's right, for the team, but damn. Like,
Deansy, you're going and
master manipulator.
And he would be like, tell all your stuff, and you walk out and you'd be like, yeah, man, this is awesome.
Yes.
And all the old boys would be like, look at the young buck, he's just been dropped, and you're like, yeah, no, it's good.
No, this is good. This is good.
One of the good things about being on the bench is that you got your World Cup moment at the end. I mean, you were on the field when the All Blacks won the World Cup. One of your greatest moments, arguably.
Yep, for sure.
Arguably. Because I've got a clip here that is another
What, beats
example that could beat that. Can you talk us through the context of this clip? Just tell us what's happening and press play.
8-0 to the All Blacks after 19
I was there.
minutes against Australia. Standard stuff.
Okay, JP, this one isn't about you, so let's just watch it.
How good? Pretty simple, really.
Okay. Let me think about this.
Spice, pretty simple,
Mate, that's
you know what? Doesn't even do that sort of shit.
That's 3 points in front of the post. 3 points.
I'm sure heaps of locks have done it around the world. Actually, now I go to YouTube. No one's fucking done it.
No, but to be fair,
no one has ever done
that.
that.
Done it again. You know, they can't do that.
so you've got the ball at a penalty in front of
it's
the post.
pretty
It's a
impressive.
You've shinned that, to be fair.
A guaranteed 3 points, and you've kicked it to Dougie Howler on the wing. You've done a crossfield kick before your time.
So I think one of the things we always talked about was play what you see, right? And I always had a pretty good relationship with the backs. More because they were good looking and it helped me later at night, right? So I hung out with backs more than I hung out with forwards. And backs chat's generally better than forwards chat, right? So I had a pretty decent relationship with most backs. And I don't know what happened, but I had the ball on a penalty, and Dougie was just on the corner, just waving at me relentlessly, and I was like, "Oh, don't make me!" And then I was like, "You know what? Fuck this! I got this."
You weren't thinking pass it?
Nah. A footballer, mate.
A goalie. You're a goalie, mate.
You see the vision of the field, and I just got it, and I was like, "Oof, let's give it a crack." Because you sort of have a bit of that banter at training.
Yeah.
You know, you sort of try it, and everyone's, "No, you don't kick. And so I did it. Interestingly enough, it came off and scored a pretty.
Look at the revolutions. That's a snowflake. That's not end over end, mate.
No, that's a snow. That goes like that, and it keeps the ball straight. I learned that. Don't get into too much detail. Anyway, what happened is Graham Henry and the coaching staff were in the box, and they were like, "Oh, you fucking idiot!" They were cursing, absolutely cursing, and then they were like, "You little beauty!" and Gilbert and Okra, one of the guys, was in the box, and they were like, "You should have seen the emotion." They were like, "You were on the fastest train to Europe you've ever seen in your life, mate." And then boom, you came out and you were a hero. So,
mate, that was actually a great game because we actually came back to where we were close. No.
You still lost.
No, you still lost.
No, I know that.
Well, it can't be a great game.
No,
mate,
it was a great game.
It was a good game, actually.
Because we came back within 2 points, I think, and then I remember Mark Chisholm got tackled inside the red zone, spilled it, and then you guys ended up scoring 2 more tries, and
it was
blew out.
a quite. It was
actually
started off quite free flowing.
No, in the 73rd minute, it was still like only 2 or 3 points. But I actually fucking remember that kick, right? Like when we were standing there and we were like, I remember behind, right, like Greggs was like, that fucking Ali Williams get kicked, like. In fact, we were blowing up. We were actually blowing up.
It wasn't meant to happen, right?
No, never.
Like, it's just not meant to happen. When you've got a forward that gets the ball, it's not really meant to happen. But I suppose that sums me up in a nutshell.
It does.
That
Yeah,
I'm
it
probably
actually
slightly
does.
different, a little bit risque when it comes to silly things like that, but then maybe had the talent to pull the odd thing up. But trust me, there are probably other clips that it's gone wrong. You know what I mean? So I think, I had the good with the bad. I played some good games and then I played some bad games. So, that is what it is.
When you look back in your career, I mean, this
It's the
is
only
a big
clip I show my
highlight.
kids, by the way. just to clarify.
By the way, this is what I used to do.
That and the haka. Oh, Dad, you were real good. Yeah. I don't show the missed tackles or anything like that.
Is that your career highlight? Do you think the World Cup and the
Easily.
crossfield kick? Is there anything else that sticks out for you?
Mate, Lyons, I thought he was one of our players of the series, so not bad.
I think, for me, I went to Toulon also, won 2 European Cups, won the French top 14, I won with the Blues, I won the Crusaders. There wasn't a competition I went into that I didn't win, which is pretty crazy. So in terms of accolades, I did get them all, but I think the biggest accolade that I've got out of my rugby career is, one, the people I've met, and I think, two, probably the lessons that I've learned, because I made a lot of mistakes publicly, and people, in New Zealand, we're a small
Been
thing.
there, mate.
Exactly.
Good company again.
Me and Marshy, right? We made a lot of mistakes publicly, and I think now, if I think, what is your true legacy? And the only true legacy you leave is your kids. And I think, for me, I look at things like this and that career playing rugby. I think that all those mistakes and all those things that I did wrong but did well, I think it makes me a better person that I am today, and makes me a better dad, and I think that's my learning from rugby. It's not the medals, it's not the jerseys, it's the friendship and the lessons that I learned to make me better now. So I know that sort of seems a bit washy and blah blah blah, but for me it's not actually about the.
It's exactly.
But I think with you, mate,
Come to see you. I haven't seen you in 10 years,
10 years,
come and see it, and
man.
it's like. That's the strength of rugby, and that's the strength of it. And
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Ali,
It's been a-
legend,
thanks,
mate.
thank you
Legend,
so
mate.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. Appreciate it, and great to connect. I
Thank you.
see Marshy when I get a bit wayward down south, but haven't seen you for a long time. So
for a
bloody
long
good
time,
to see
bro.
you, and
You too, bro.
hopefully the people around the world, because obviously there's billions of people.
Global.
Mate, we're going to
global.
come to a football
Global.
game, man.
Hey, definitely.
Hey?
Can we
no
come-
doubt you'll have a
let's-
box
yes,
there. Knowing
let's
Ali Williams, mate, you're always getting entertained. You'll be like,
I love
boys,
how
I've got
Marshy
some
said
tickets
straight for a box.
Let's go. No. Well,
Do you
far
love
out,
that?
mate.
We don't actually. We don't even
I'll
use
get
a box.
abused in the crowd in Auckland, mate. I've got to go to a box, man.
Marshy's, we've got to look after him,
Me,
mate.
Anna, Ali, you can come if you
You
want,
can come,
JP
bud.
or
Yeah.
Andy, maybe.
Thanks, mate.
You
Thanks,
guys
mate.
can
Thanks,
come.
mate.
You
I'm
guys
there.
can
I'm there.
No, but
Thank you guys very much for coming on the show as well. Let's wrap it up.
Are you saying they're not regular guests?
Well, no,
Oh,
they
I
are.
thought
They're
they were part
very
of the
regular.
show.
I just like I'm being polite. I'm being polite.
Yes.
It's like
Thanks for coming.
As outros as bad as an intro, mate. Here
Thanks
we
for
go.
coming on my show, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, boys. Yes, boys.
Thank you very much for watching or listening, and we will be back again next week.